know, as an immunologist, I would say one of my strongest suits is immunology. And I'm absolutely confident that all the stories they are telling you around the world about variants is a lie. It's complete fraud. And I can exemplify. So we're all being told about variants, the Brazilian, the Kent, South African, and so on. I just ask people just to take a deep breath. Recognize it's a big virus. It consists of what's called amino acids, 10,000 of them in strings, and then they're all folded up to form the characteristic shape that you know and hate. If you go and look for the virus that is most different from the one originally sequenced in Wuhan about 16 months ago, you will find that the most different variant is only 0.3% different. So it's 99.7% identical. They're all of them 99.7% identical to the original. And you might be thinking, that doesn't sound like enough to escape the human immune system. And you're right, it's not, and I can prove it, that the 2003 SARS virus is related to SARS-CoV-2. They differ by about 20%, 20. So about 80 times as much variation between those two viruses and any of the variants of the current one. And I can assure you that when immunology researchers found scores of people who'd been infected by SARS in 2003, they took blood samples from these volunteers. They confirmed two important things. One, all of the survivors still had really good immune memory to the virus they'd encountered 17 years ago, which is what you'd expect. But what was wonderful is they all also possessed what's called cross-immunity. That is, their immune system recognized the new virus. And I'm not surprised. The human immune system essentially takes multiple pictures of any pathogen that it encounters, often between 15 and 30 pictures. And basically none of the variants change more than a couple of those pictures. So when you encounter the variant, having been immunized by infection or vaccination, it's impossible. It's not just implausible, it's impossible that your body doesn't recognize that variant as something it's seen before. So your governments are lying to you, and in my case, the United Kingdom has closed the border effectively, really restricted international travel. And the reason they give is because of these variants, which I know for certain is a lie. They're not a problem at all. But furthermore, what's absolutely terrifying is two further bits of information which I want your viewers and listeners to hear. The pharmaceutical industry is already manufacturing so-called top-up or variant vaccines. Now, if I'm right, and these variants aren't different enough to warrant a different vaccine, and they are not, what is it that they're manufacturing? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm actually terrified. And then when I give you one last piece of information, a few weeks ago, the world's medicines regulators, including the FDA, the European Medicines Agency, and their sibling in Japan, and they issued a statement that said that the variant or top-up vaccines are so similar to the parent vaccines from which they were derived, we will not require the drug companies to run any clinical safety studies on them. So yes, you've got that right. If the drug company designs a vaccine on a computer, it'll go straight to manufacturing, and as long as it meets manufacturing quality standards, it can then be injected into the arms of hundreds of millions or even billions of people. And remember what I said about the vaccine passports. Once they're up and running, once it tells you to do something, on pain of losing the validity of your vaccine passport, you will comply. Now, if you wanted to really... go ahead. Yeah, if you wanted to be really terrified, since it's not my crime, I don't know why they're manufacturing top-up vaccines, and so I don't know what their intent is in injecting you. But you don't need a particularly vivid imagination to think that since so much of this crisis has been malign, and there is no benign interpretation of what's going on, it certainly has the potential to be a very harmful event.
What should people do when they're confronted with this pressure? And there's enormous pressure all over the world. It's not obviously just in the UK or America. It's everywhere. There's enormous pressure to take this vaccine. As you say, there's the looming passport. It's already been instituted in Israel.
Yes.
What should people do? What's the best response? How can we resist this?
Well, honestly, it's not any harder than it sounds. Actually, it's to say thank you very much for your generous offer of a free vaccine, but for my own reasons, I've decided to decline and do not engage in debate with them. You don't need to explain your decision. You're a sovereign human being. You decide what goes into your body or not. So just say thanks very much. But I'm declining, and do not engage them in discussions. Even if they insist, you'll say, look, I've made my decision, thank you very much. And then the other thing that must be done is to prevent the vaccine passport system coming into being. You're being told that it's necessary to regain confidence, but I've just explained that if you're vaccinated, you're protected, and if you have chosen not to be vaccinated, you don't need to know. So no one needs to know anybody else's immune status. There's no benign reason for it to come in. I think we could easily recover our confidence, frankly, just by being told the truth. That's what's needed, not some ghastly, nightmarish totalitarian control system, because I'm afraid that's what it'll be. I actually think that was always the objective. So legislators, if you're listening, or people who know people who are legislators, I'm afraid get on their case, explain to them that there are no advantages. Don't let them fool you into, it'll only be a temporary measure. Well, like income tax, once it starts, there's no recovery from it. And I've just explained, I've given you examples that if you're asked to do anything at all for yourself or in relation to your children and grandchildren, if you're told, if you don't comply, we will henceforth turn off the validity of your vaccine passport. Say you won't be able to go to the shops anymore. Eventually you might not be able to buy gasoline or leave your house. Whatever the rules the controllers set, you will then be coerced into doing whatever they tell you. Is that really what you wanted? If not, you better start demonstrating, because single individuals like me can do nothing. I can warn you and explain how much danger we're in, but you behind the camera, you watching, if you don't do something, these criminals are going to steal liberal democracy and freedom forever.
Amen.